Double agent in one piece, from Rox Pirates to World's Most Wanted. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 61. Congratulations to the host, get new enhancement points, will you strengthen it? Early that morning, Lynn had just gotten up and heard the system. The sound is so beautiful. With the reinforcement point, he can strengthen. Lynn couldn't wait to turn on the system. The system, start strengthening now, strengthen the body. Ding dong, reinforcement begins. As soon as the sound of the system disappeared, Lynn felt a strong stream of air coming out of her body, some of which was hot. But this feeling comes and goes quickly. After a while, I didn't feel anything at all. If it weren't for Lynn feeling the power in his body, he might have thought he was dreaming. Good power, yes, open the system panel. Lynn couldn't wait to see his attributes, and he was even a little eager to try. Name, Lynn. Physique, LV10. Domineering, top-notch. Swordsmanship, top swordsman. Fruit ability, black dragon fruit. Lynn looked at the system panel, which was quite simple, but in this world, it was definitely one of the best properties. It is estimated that even Roger or Lox are not his opponents now. Ding dong, congratulations to the host, get special ability super healing power, damage taken, can be instantly recovered, the price is the cost of physical strength. The sound of the system came again. Lynn paused, thinking it was pretty good. Although it requires physical strength, it is still of great use for combat. It is estimated that Kaido also has such an ability, although that is the future Kaido. Maybe it's time to beat Lox. Lynn looked at the newspaper in her hand. The Dracos are about to pass through the Valley of the Gods. Not having seen anime may not know, but Lynn is well aware that Lox intends to do something to these Draco. But it was because of this great battle that Lox was eventually defeated and disappeared without a trace, and Cat also succeeded in becoming a naval hero. Sure enough, over the next few days, Lynn noticed that Lox was behaving a little abnormally. It also made him more determined that Lox was going to do something to the Draco, which was also good and gave him a good chance. But before that, Lynn planned to tell the world government anyway. The world government will definitely know, it is better to sell the world government a face. When he later forms a pirate group, maybe the world government can still provide him with some help. What's the matter? The voice of the 5 old stars came from inside the telephone bug. Lox is already planning to do something to the world government. Lynn's words were clear and concise. The 5 old stars were silent. Although he had known that Lox was going to do something to them, he still felt some headaches when he actually heard it. After all, the Rox Pirates are quite powerful. Of course, it was only slightly painful. What are you going to do? The 5 old stars asked. It is said that he intends to do something to the Dracos in the Valley of the Gods. I have a better way, but I want your help. Lynn was a little nervous about it. What's the solution? The 5 stars were still curious, and if Lynn had a way, they wouldn't need to waste time. Quite simply, I have a good relationship with Whitebeard, and I have also taken Kaido and Mitsuki Mita, and then a few of us can besiege Lox. But there's a big problem here, and you need to find a way to stop Big Mama and a few of them, so you need help from the Navy. Holy Land Mary Joa. Several of the 5 old stars looked at each other. Lynn's strength, they knew, might not be as good as Lox, but with Whitebeard, it wasn't much worse. They could have let the Navy fight the others, Lynn and Whitebeard against Lox, and they didn't need their world government to do it. Okay, Navy, we'll say hello, and then Lox will be up to you. Then I'll hang up first. Lynn hung up the phone immediately. Idiot, caught in my machinations, but thank you very much. He was very happy now. Finally there is a chance to do something to Lox, and with the help of the world government, the Navy should not intervene. By the way, go find Whitebeard. Lynn is ready to discuss it with Whitebeard, and then needs Whitebeard's help. What? Are you going to do something to Lox? Whitebeard looked at Lynn in surprise. He also didn't expect Lynn to be so bold as to actually plan to do something to Lox. That is the king of the new world today. A true overlord of the sea. Even for One Piece Roger, not as famous as Lox. That's right, he's going to do something to the Draco, and I guess it's almost over, and Shiki will definitely leave. Instead of Lox, the pirate overlord, who died at the hands of the Navy and lost all the pirate face, I would have killed him myself. Lynn pulled out the blade and stroked it gently, and a cold light burst out from the blade. Indeed, this guy is looking for death, and it is estimated that he will soon be defeated, and it is better to die at the hands of the Navy than to die at my hands, so what do you want me to do? Whitebeard nodded slightly. He also felt that Lox was looking for death and wanted to challenge the world government. Quite simply, the Navy will definitely move, the others will definitely stop the Navy, or run away. You help me sweep the side of the line, I will single out Rox. Lynn didn't actually need Whitebeard's help, but after thinking about it, the child was prepared to let Whitebeard guard in case of an accident. No problem, you're also a good friend of mine, and I'll definitely help you sweep the battlefield when the time comes. Whitebeard didn't even think about it. As a good friend, of course he should help Lynn. And just skimming, even if he let him do it himself, he wouldn't hesitate. Then thank you. By the way, after the end, I will tell you something very important. Episode 62. On this day, Rox called an emergency meeting. Lynn actually already knew Rox's purpose, but didn't say it, pretending not to know anything. In the conference room, Rox did say his purpose, and everyone didn't say anything, pretending not to care about anything. But this is now distracted. That is, Rox himself did not know, and thought that these people had agreed, and he was quite proud of himself. He had even imagined himself defeating the world government and dominating the entire world. Now that you've all agreed, go back and get ready and leave tonight. Rox had a smile on his face, not noticing the expressions of those present. After leaving, Lynn sneered. What an idiot, who really thought he could defeat the world government. It's really idiotic to make such a wrong decision. Although Whitebeard had expected it, he still felt a little incredulous when he actually waited for this day. Don't worry so much, since Rox is looking for his own death, then let him die on his own. I don't like this pirate group. Mitsuki Oda was a little happy. And Lynn is very happy. Only this pirate group, many people are unhappy. He was bullied several times. If it weren't for Lynn's help, he probably wouldn't have survived the pirate group. We can go back and get ready. That afternoon, Rox set off early. With all the pirate groups, they left in a big way, and naturally they were also detected by the world government. Because there were too many people to hide, Rox had nothing to hide, and was ready to storm the world government. The world government also notified the Navy for the first time. Although Lynn has a shot, it is more appropriate to need someone to help, such as the Navy. Naval Base. The Steel Skeleton Heir received the news at the first time and immediately summoned all the admirals. The naval hero Carp, of course, is not a hero yet, just an ordinary vice admiral, just a little stronger. Then there are the admirals Sengoku, Zifa, Jiros, plus some vice admirals, which can be said to be all out. After all, we were facing the Rox Pirates. Folks, the world government has received the news that Rox is about to strike at the Draco, and it is in the Valley of the Gods that you must all go out and defeat the Rox Pirates. The expression of the steel bone empty was somewhat serious. Because this time it will be the Rox Pirates, the most powerful pirates in the New World, and their navies are not opponents. All the navies present immediately sat up straight. This is the top pirate group. All three admirals frowned. Carp was also a little worried. Marshal empty, just a few of us? Is there no world government? Sengoku couldn't help asking. The other navies nodded as well. It was true that the Rox Pirates were too powerful, and their navy was not sure enough. If it is not necessary, even if you want to do something to the Rox Pirates, at least you must have the help of the world government. Warring states, rest assured, the world government has received the news, and the vast majority of people except for a few people in Rox have been distracted. And it's said that Lynn and Whitebeard are going to challenge Rox, and then you just have to suppress the others, and Rox will be handed over to Lynn. At the mention of Lynn, Jaretha's eyes were full of murderous anger. Since the last time he was injured by Lynn, his body has not been as good as before, and he has aged very quickly. Although it still has the strength of a general, it is much worse. If Lynn is really going to challenge Rox, we just have to deal with the others, and we should still be sure. Sengoku bowed his head and said. He even had the idea that it would be better to let Lynn and Rox fight a lose-lose situation. Unfortunately, the 5 old stars had already issued an order to set off Lynn on the side of the Navy. Sengoku, after you have gone, you should act opportunistically, and it is best not to fight Lynn and Rox alone, but also not to let others disturb their fighting. The warring states did not understand the meaning of steel bone emptiness. But since it was the order of the steel bone, he could only obey. Okay, now you're leaving. That afternoon, the Navy also set off. Valley of the Gods, the fallen land of Rox. Pirate ships approached. They are all the top sea pirates of the Rox Pirates. Lynn, Whitebeard, Scotty, Big Mama, John, Silver Axe, and more. These are all tasks at the cadre level. Each has a power comparable to that of an admiral. Because of this, Rox has been traversing the New World for so many years, and he has never been afraid. If it weren't for Lox's action against the world government, it is estimated that the pirate group would not have fallen apart, and it is likely that it would have existed for a longer time. Unfortunately, there is no if. Lynn stood at the bow of the ship, looking at the pirate ship in the distance, holding the demon knife in one hand, and there was something foolish in his heart. But he restrained. At present, this situation is not the best time. Whitebeard also patted Lynn on the shoulder and shook his head. He's not stupid either. At least until the entire Rox pirate regiment falls apart before challenging Rox. Moreover, he also saw that Shirji and Big Mama and several of them already had plans to retreat, but they did not say it. As for the specific purpose, he was not very clear. Rox looked at the island in front of him, a red light in his eyes, and a murderous breath filled his eyes. Finally here. First go and kill the Draco, and then destroy the world government. At that time, he can rule the world. Everybody get ready, go and destroy the Dracos now. Rox drew his sword and aimed it at the Valley of the Gods. But everyone stood, silently watching Rox, with no intention of moving. Lynn also had a playful look in her eyes. Rox doesn't understand the human heart. Shirji also looked at Rox with a smile on his face, and had no intention of doing anything. There is only one throne and only one heir. Whitebeard couldn't help but shake his head. It is hard to imagine that the sea thief Rox, who has been traversing the new world for many years, is actually an idiot. None of them saw that their minds were wrong. It's a bit weird. Mitsuki Makuta had sensed that something was wrong, and on closer inspection, it was true that as Lynn had said, these people had no intention of helping Rox. The others' expressions were somewhat cold. Episode 63, Rox noticed the men too, his brow furrowed slightly, his eyes filled with anger. What do you want to do? Don't listen to orders? Poof. Lynn couldn't help but laugh, then walked over to Rox with disdain in her eyes. Rox, do you really think you're the overlord? This pirate group is originally a combination of interests. Now you can't bring us any benefits, of course you don't need you, poor you don't know, it's really unlucky guy. People nearby also watched Rox silently. They thought the same as Lynn, that since the Rox pirates were no longer able to bring benefits, there was no need for freedom to exist. The murderous breath in Rox's eyes filled the air, and he quickly drew his knife, jumped to Lynn's side, and then slashed it down. Lynn also quickly drew her knife. Bells. The two exchanged more than 10 rounds in an instant, and finally Lynn took the initiative to retreat, and Rox did not continue to move. The others had already dispersed and had no intention of intervening. What do you mean by that? Rox's face was particularly ugly. He also did not expect that these obedient people would actually disobey this time, and even John would dare to openly disobey him. Don't you understand? We are united only because of interests. Now you have to do something to the world government, so dangerous, which idiot is willing to do it, and even if it succeeds, who will be the king of the world? Lynn glanced at Rox with disdain. He was right, Whitebeard could not have done anything against the world government, and he had no such ambitions. Everyone else was ambitious, and it was even less likely to help Rox. Yes, Rox, there is only one throne in the world, and that can only be me. Scrox said with a smile. He was quite sympathetic to Lynn, and at the same time he was sympathetic to Rox. I can't understand people's hearts. Rox, I'm so interested in the throne too, I'm sorry. Big Mom also said with a smile. The others were smiling too, and it was clear that there was no intention of helping Rox at all. Rox's face was ugly. He didn't expect that he had done so much, and at the last moment, this pirate group actually fell apart. It is equivalent to saying that all his efforts for so many years have been in vain. How can he not be angry? Rox, I'm not interested in your throne, but I want to defeat you and see how powerful Rox really is to become the overlord of the new world. In the face of an angry Rox, Lynn did not hesitate to raise the demon knife in his hand, and the tip of the knife was aimed at Rox, sending out his own challenge. Everyone present was shocked, and some could not believe that Lynn was actually planning to challenge Rox. Rox was already angry, and when he heard Lynn's words, he was even more furious. Very well, I'll kill you now. The angry Rox did not restrain himself either, clutching the long sword in his hand, and with a sharp swing of the sword, it was a sharp chopping wave. The earth was cut apart and space was torn apart. The sharp sword she instantly crossed the space and came to Lynn's front. Lynn had a knife in her hand, but she contained all her strength. The sword chi was hit by Lynn, and then it turned in a different direction, soaring into the sky and straight into the sky. Rumble. The originally gloomy sky was cut open by Rox's sword chi, revealing bright sunlight and a clear blue sky. The sky was cut twice, and another abyss appeared. Worthy of being a Lox, strength is strong, even if you are old, you are still the world hegemon. Squire opened his mouth in praise. Even though the others had broken with Lox, they had to admire Lox's strength. At this moment, the distant navy gradually approached and appeared above the horizontal plane. The warring states stood on the warship, looking up at the sky, looking at the sword chi that separated the sky, and his heart was also shocked. This is the world's strongest pirate Lox. None of him was confident of defeating Lox. Sengoku, that should be Lox. It looks like Lynn and Lox are fighting. Do we want to go up? Sengoku hesitated. He already knew Lynn's identity, a spy planted by the world government. This time Lox was left to Lynn to deal with. He didn't know if he should meddle or not. After a moment's struggle, the warring states quickly made up their minds to take down the other pirates. As for Lox, he left it to Lynn and Whitebeard to deal with, and then he would find a way to deal with Whitebeard later. Carp, let's go up together and find a way to eliminate the rest of Lox, and as for Lynn, no one is allowed to meddle in his battle and let them kill each other. Sengoku did not reveal Lynn's identity. In addition to the steel skeleton heir, the entire navy is only known to him, even Zifa or Kapu do not know. This is to ensure Lynn's safety. Of course, Lynn is an important pawn in the eyes of the world government. But he did not know that the world government was also an important pawn in Lynn's eyes. Understood. The navy was all dispatched, and more than a dozen warships approached the Valley of the Gods in a mighty way. So many navies, of course, caught the attention of pirates. Whitebeard waited for his brow to frown slightly, and looked at Lynn again, not knowing whether he should let Lynn retreat temporarily. Although they did not put the navy in their eyes. Sure Ji, Ling, you do me a favor, I owe you a favor. Lynn said suddenly. Although he did not know whether these navies knew his identity or not, it was too much of a hindrance after all, and someone still needed to be able to drag them down. Scraw, they're just right. Oh, what would you like to ask me to help? Mama and Scrock were interested. Quite simply, you help me lure these navies away, and then I owe you a favor to do something for you. Lynn didn't care about human feelings at all. In the future, if you don't return the favor, you will have to see his mood. Not a saying that says it well. This year, it is the uncle who owes money. It is also the uncle who owes human affection. No problem, that's some navy, I agreed. Ski immediately agreed. He didn't take the navy seriously at all, and he could make Lynn owe a favor. Big Mom agreed. In the end, even Silver Axe and John agreed to Lynn's request. The main thing is that the navy originally planned to do something to them, they went with the flow, and they could get a favor for free. Episode 64, Then I'll Go First. Squish took his little brother with him, jumped on a pirate ship, turned and left. Lynn, remember the kindness you owe me. The eldest mother also left with her children. John and Silver Axe both took their own men and rushed to the naval warship together, and then suddenly turned around and set off for the other side. Their main purpose was to lure the navy away, and the rest didn't matter, and it wasn't their business whether Lynn would live or not. If Lynn is alive, there is a human feeling, and if she dies, it will be fine, and they will eventually retreat. Carp, everyone keep up, don't let these people go, arrest them all. A glint of essence appeared in the eyes of the warring states. He just didn't want to do anything to Lynn, so these people ran away, or they could go after and kill these people, and it was best to destroy the Shiki and a few of them. That would take down these people and give Lynn a chance. Lox, who has lost the vast majority of cadres, has no threat anymore, and his peak is only the last few years, so there is no need to be afraid. Sengoku, what about Lynn? Carp asked. Leave them alone, let the two of them have a good fight, get rid of these troubles first, as for Lox, he won't live long. Sengoku didn't look at Lynn. Anyway, Lynn was the man of the world government, so let these people fight, and he just went to solve the others. Understood. Kapu didn't say much, since it was the decision of the warring states, he would definitely listen to the warring states. Soon, all the navies were gone. The Valley of the Gods consisted of only Lox and his loyal men, as well as Lynn and Whitebeard. Newgate, those men of Lox, I'll leave it to you, don't meddle in my battle, I'll defeat him. Lynn looked at Lox with confidence in her eyes. If Lox had been a decade younger, he might have been a little worried. But now more than 70 years old, Lox has long lived up to the past, coupled with his peak strength, there is no need to be afraid. Got it, this waste is handed over to me. Whitebeard did not refuse, raised his large knife, and walked towards Lox's men. Unfortunately, these people are only some captains, not even cadres. How can they be Whitebeard opponents? Anyway, these people were trembling with fear. Forget it, Kaido, it's up to you. Whitebeard sighed, just this waste, there is no qualification to let him do it, he does not want to waste time. Okay, I'll leave it to you. Kaido did not refuse, raised the mace in his hand, and walked slowly to Rox's men. He was just going to find some opponents. And me, I'm going to do it too. Mitsuki Oda jumped and came to Lynn's side, looking at the enemy in the distance, and his heart was a little confused. Hands on. Kaido quickly rushed into the crowd, raising the mace in his hand, constantly waving, and one pirate after another was beaten away. Almost no one was Kaido's opponent. Mitsuki's strength was also very strong. From time to time, a flash of light flashed, the sword chi burst out, and many pirates in the vicinity were slashed to the ground. In the face of the two outbreaks, Rox did not care, he now only wanted to solve Lynn and vent his anger. Lynn, give me death. Rox let out a roar, his pupils dilated, and a black breath burst out, instantly sweeping across the entire Valley of the Gods. Lynn was right in the middle of Rox's breath. Overlord color domineering. Super tough Overlord color domineering. More powerful than before. Lynn also did not expect that the last time in the Overlord color domineering collision, Rox actually hid his strength, and he was really quite clever. Unfortunately, Rox doesn't understand the human heart. Thundered. In the face of the dooms-like Overlord domineering spirit of Rox, Lynn stood calmly in place, his eyes indifferent. It's quite powerful, but my Overlord color is not worse than yours. Lynn was ready to do it, but since Rox had unleashed his domineering spirit, he certainly couldn't admit it. Click. The ground suddenly shattered, and Lynn took a step forward, stepping on the crack, his eyes widened, and a wave of momentum burst out. The red Overlord color domineering rushed towards Rox. Thundered. One red and one black, two domineering forces of different colors suddenly slammed into each other, like two storms colliding with each other. The sound of explosions, like a series of bombs, has never stopped, constantly emitting violent explosions. Click, click, click. Suddenly, the whole space was frozen, as if time had been frozen and the surroundings became silent. It was as if the whole world had been frozen by time. However, the freeze was only brief, and a series of tearing sounds suddenly appeared in the void, and the space was completely torn apart. The cracks in the ground continued to widen, and soon a huge abyss was formed. The abyss was at the feet of Lynn and Rox, but as if there were eyes, the rift passed under their feet but did not reach them. Most of the Valley of the Gods was under the collision of the two overlords, countless houses collapsed, and many people were stunned by the shock. A large number of stones suddenly flew out, spreading out in all directions, and slammed into the bodies of the two men. But Lynn and Rox stood in the middle of the storm, allowing the stones to hit them and crash into powder, scattering without a trace. The distant Whitebeard casually slapped the stone and flew away, focusing on Lynn, still a little worried in his heart. After all, Lynn was facing Rox. Rox, who has dominated the entire New World for many years. Whoosh. The domineering spirit of the Overlord color became more and more powerful, and the voice in the sky became louder and louder, deafening and resounding through the clouds. Many people's ears feel a little tingling. The collision between the two overlords and domineering spirits produced a strong impact, and even tore open the space. Chopping. Suddenly, a series of blue lightning bolts appeared in the void, constantly reflecting each other. Blue lightning was all around the two of them, emitting a series of roaring sounds, like fierce beasts, and constantly biting the two. But Lynn and Rox still looked at each other, unaffected by the lightning, and let the lightning strike them. Even Raiden, which has turned red and black, has replaced Lynn and Rox, and is fighting each other. Episode 65, Thundered. The domineering color of the two is still fiercely fighting. The sea, which was originally calm and unremarkable, suddenly became choppy and undercurrent. Above the sea in the distance, the Navy was chasing Shirji and the others, and before they could get too far, they felt the domineering spirit of the two men, and also noticed that the weather was changing drastically. So powerful, is this Rox? The warring states looked a little solemn, such a powerful overlord color domineering, he was not too sure. It's really powerful, and the other one, Lynn, is also very domineering, and he must not be let go. Carp's expression was equally serious. It was too strong, and his heart was a little eager to try, and he wanted to fight with these two top strong people. Unfortunately, it's just a matter of thinking about it. Shirji and the others also felt Lynn's domineering, only slightly surprised, but not too shocked. After all, they had long known how powerful Lynn and Rox were, and had already clashed before, only this time more intensely. It's pretty powerful, but Lynn, this time, give you a chance to show off, the next time will be different. Having said that, Scrabble continued to engage the Navy fiercely. The Valley of the Gods, the domineering collider of Lynn and Rox, and increasingly intense. Many pirates in the vicinity were stunned and fainted. The remaining pirates could have held on, but the domineering spirit of the two was too strong. The pirates finally couldn't hold on, half kneeling on the ground, one hand propped up on the ground, with a look of pain on their faces. Good mighty overlord color domineering. After saying that, the pirates fainted one by one. In the end, only a handful of people remained, but this was now quickly defeated by Kaido and fell to the ground. Kaido and Mitsuki Oda retreated into the distance, with no intention of interfering in their battle. They didn't want to admit it, but they had to admit that Lynn was really good and Rox was also very strong, not something he could meddle with. Lynn is amazing. Although Mitsuki Mida had already felt it, he still couldn't help but praise it. It's really powerful. Whitebeard felt it. Lynn became stronger again, and the overlord-colored domineering spirit was more powerful than before. This is also thanks to Lynn's strengthened physique, both physically and mentally, once strengthened. So the domineering has also become more powerful. In the distance, a pirate ship gradually approached. It was Rox Pirates. Roger stood at the bow of the ship, looking out over the Valley of the Gods, and his heart was particularly shocked. It was Lynn, and I thought it was the Navy. It's Lynn. Riley was also quite surprised. He thought that the Navy and Rox had fought, and this time he came to help. After all, Rox often troubled them and regarded them as enemies, which is why they planned to join forces with the Navy. Unexpectedly, as soon as I arrived, I saw the Navy running after Rox's men, and Lynn was also engaged in a domineering confrontation with Rox. It looks like it's clear, Lynn wants to challenge Rox, the others have escaped, and we don't need to intervene. Roger suddenly felt very relaxed. Originally thought that an uphill battle would be required, it now seemed that he could have come and traveled. But don't say that Lynn's domineering spirit is really powerful. Not only Riley was shocked, but others were also shocked. In particular, this overlord-colored domineering force, the destructive force is too strong. The whole island, the sea nearby, the sky. They were all affected by the domineering spirit of the overlord. It gives the impression that the world is about to be destroyed. Roger also carefully felt the domineering spirit of the two people, not worse than him at all. If it was really compared, it was estimated that it was evenly matched. Yes, Lynn is great, and if the two of us have a conflict, he will be the biggest enemy in my life. But that's okay, I think Lynn is very good to get along with, there should be no contradictions between us, so there is no need to worry at all. Roger is still quite confident about this. In particular, Lynn gave him the historical text, indicating that the two people had no contradictions at all, and could even be good friends in the future. I hope so. Riley didn't say much, his eyes fixed on Lynn. The domineering collision of the two sides lasted for a long time, and finally stopped at the same time. Because there is no need to continue the confrontation. They have already tried each other almost everything, and then there is the final confrontation. Rox had a calm face, and he didn't expect Lynn to hide so deeply, and he actually had such a powerful strength. Lynn, if you dare to betray me, I will never let you go. As he spoke, Rox raised the knife in his hand. Although Whitebeard was by his side, he had no intention of retreating, only wanted to completely destroy Lynn and vent his anger. In his opinion, Lynn and these people ruined his future, ruined his kingship, then he will destroy Lynn. Whoever let everyone else already run. Roger also jumped off the pirate ship and came to Whitebeard's side, who raised his large knife to block Roger. Roger, there's nothing for you here, just let me disappear now. Since Whitebeard had promised Lynn, he naturally wanted to help Lynn, and he absolutely could not let Roger destroy Lynn's battle. Ha ha ha, Nougat, rest assured, I will never fight Lynn. Roger wasn't stupid, Lynn was clearly in a fondness for him, and how could he possibly have casually intervened in the fight? And the Navy is not far away, no one knows if the Navy will come over, there is no need to give themselves one more opponent. Whitebeard looked at Roger so warily, and Kaido and Mitsuki Mida stood next to them, not saying a word, ready to fight at any time. Lynn focused her attention on Rox. Beat Rox and there should be an achievement package. Rox, I wanted to beat you a year ago, but then, the time was short, and today, you will be defeated by me. Lynn raised the demon knife to the village, revealing a red light in his eyes, and then stomped the ground, stepping out of a huge pit. Lynn, you traitor shouldn't have been taken in the first place. Rox also let out a roar, his right arm clenched, the muscles in his arm bulged, and a large number of green tendons, like earthworms, spread throughout the arm. This shows the power of Rox. Unfortunately, Rox was already old. Let's do it. Lynn let out a roar, then grabbed the demon knife with both hands at the same time and burst out, quickly rushing towards Rox. Rox also let out a roar that resounded through the sky. Episode 66, Bells and Bells. Valley of the Gods. Lynn and Rox had their first fierce confrontation, and the two were surrounded by swords and shadows. Sword chi spread out in all directions, and many houses were affected by the sword chi and instantly cut in half. One big tree after another was cut off by the barricades. The whole Valley of the Gods was trembling, and the earth was completely cracked, as if the end was coming, giving a feeling of hell on earth. Everyone was watching from a distance. Whitebeard and Chow Chow, Roger and Riley. These people all admire the strength of both men. I didn't expect Lynn to be so perverted, and so was Rox. These two guys fought, and the destructive power is estimated to be very strong. Roger couldn't help but sigh. Riley nodded beside him as well. Obviously, this is only the first confrontation, and the destructive power of the battle is earth-shattering. With this Dao sword chi, he had to show all his strength, and he didn't dare to be careless. Whoosh! Suddenly, a series of sword chi flew from afar. Roger and Riley immediately jumped to the side, and the sword chi passed by the two, leaving a long gully. It was terrible, I almost got spilled. It seems that I should still be careful, otherwise I will accidentally be touched, it will be bad. Cold sweat appeared on their foreheads. On the other side, Whitebeard and Chow Chow secretly laughed. However, just after laughing, several sword chi flew in the distance, and the target was them. Whitebeard jumped to the side first, easily dodging. Chow Chow took a slow step, too late to dodge, and could only raise his sword and block in front of him. The strong force caused Chow Chow to fly out, dragging his feet on the ground, leaving 2 drag marks, and then crashing into the wall on one side. I was scared to death, I almost died. Chow Chow wiped the sweat from his forehead. Fortunately, it was only a consumed sword chi, otherwise, Chow Chow estimated that he would not be able to hold it at all. Be careful. The white-bearded man stood in front of Chow Chow to prevent Chow Chow from accidentally being affected by the sword chi again. Or not. Let's take a step back. Even Chow Chow, who was not afraid of heaven, had plans to retreat. It's really not okay not to retreat, now too close. If you are not careful, you will be affected by Lynn and Rox. Well, let's back off. Whitebeard nodded, then took the initiative to step back. In the distance, Roger and Riley also retreated, leaving the main battlefield to Lynn and Rox. In the middle of the battlefield, Rox's face was ugly, and he didn't expect Lynn to be so powerful. Facing his rapid attack, the defense was orderly. Not only could he defend, but he could also give 1 or 2 attacks, and even he had to put all his strength to resist. When you knelt in front of me and wanted to join my pirate group, I shouldn't let you go, I should have killed you directly. Rox's face was particularly ugly. He really regretted it in his heart. He should not have let Lynn go in the first place, and directly slashed it. There would be no such thing. Hey, I didn't kneel in front of you, you are framing, I sue you for slander. Lynn's face turned green and she quickly emphasized it. He did ask to join the Rox Pirates, after all, he was undercover at that time and he needed to go undercover, but he definitely did not kneel. This is a naked slander. You give me death now. The furious Rox stomped the ground, then jumped, leaped into the air, and spun around in the sky. When he got close to Lynn, Rox raised the knife in his hand and slashed it violently, which was a sharp sword light. The cold light whistled, and the cold glowed to the bone. Lynn also slashed a knife. Bang! A knife slashed down, and the blade hit the sword chi, and it was frozen for a moment. But with Lynn's force, the sword chi flew out, and the target was Rox. Rox's face remained unchanged, and he casually swung his sword in mid-air, and then picked up his sword chi and flew into the vast sky. Bang bang bang. Lynn also slammed into the ground, leaping into the air and slashing at Rox with a knife. It was another fierce collision. The battle was quite fierce, and the air currents generated were like a 10-level fierce wind, which affected the entire island. Time passed bit by bit. In the blink of an eye, several hours passed. The originally calm Valley of the Gods, under the battle between the two men, had been destroyed for the most part, and the ground was full of ravines, running in all directions. Lynn and Rox collided violently again, then quickly retreated backwards, pulling away from each other. Lox didn't catch up with him, but stopped where he was, the tip of the knife touching the ground, leaving a white mark. Lynn, how's it going? Do you want to surrender? Poof. Lynn burst out laughing, and this laughter, with a hint of mockery, made Lox's face go black. I always feel that my dignity has been trampled on. Lox, I thought you just didn't understand people's minds, but now it seems that you are still very stupid. The whole Rox Pirate regiment has fallen apart and ceased to exist, and they still want to subdue me. Are you really stupid to me? Lox's face became even more gloomy. Actually dare to say that he is stupid, this is clearly looking down on him and violently trampling on his dignity. I also think that Lox is stupid, how could he not have found out before? Roger also touched his chin and said to himself, he really didn't realize that Lox was so stupid. Lox also heard Roger's voice, and was already very angry, and now he was even more completely angry inside. Lynn, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill all of you, and I'm going to kill all of you. Idiot, who do you think you can kill? In my eyes, you're just a piece of crap. Lynn roared in the same rage, and inserted the demon sword village into the sheath of the sword, and threw it at Whitebeard. Whitebeard also understood what Lynn meant, and took the demon knife Muramesa and placed it next to it. Thundered. Pieces of black scales appeared on Lynn's body, and his body continued to grow, but in a few moments, he became a behemoth. Huge black dragons float in the sky. Lox, today is your day to die. The black dragon let out a roar of rage, blowing a strong storm from its mouth. Lynn was completely outraged. He wants to use the black dragon form, the strongest form after the body is strengthened, to completely defeat Lox. He is going to replace Lox as a legend of the new world. Episode 67, Lox, give me death. Lynn held aloft the dragon claw in her hand and slapped it hard against Lox. Lox looked at the dragon's claws falling from the sky, like a mountain, and immediately flashed to the side. The dragon's claw just slapped on the ruins of the house, and with a loud noise, the already dilapidated house was crushed in an instant, leaving only a dragon claw mark. Sonorous. Lox swung his sword violently, and above the sharp blade, a red light erupted, tearing open the space in an instant, carrying a momentum of breaking bamboo and rushing towards Lynn. Lynn had no intention of dodging. The huge black dragon, no matter how sensitive his body was not very good at dodging. Coupled with the fact that his defensive power is already amazing, his strength is also very large, and he is very good at just attacking, so naturally there is no need to dodge. In the face of the flying sword chi, Lynn raised the dragon claw and pumped it down fiercely, smashing the sword chi into pieces. The dragon's breath. Lynn immediately opened her mouth and spat out a fiery flame that gushed out like a pillar of fire, and in an instant, came directly above Lox. Lox also felt a heat, a flame that was no worse than magma, or even warmer than magma. No matter how strong his physique is, once he is sprayed by this flame, he will absolutely burn it up. Whoosh! Lox immediately raised his hand and swung out two swords, and the crossed sword chi leaped into the sky, quickly hitting the black pillar of fire. The flame split into 4 streams in an instant, passed by Lox's side, and then hit the ground, causing a huge explosion in an instant. Countless flames gushed out, igniting everything nearby, and the entire Valley of the Gods was in a black flame. Even the sky was blackened by black flames. Roger had been far enough away, but his face was green when he saw the flames flying over. He just appreciated the battle between the two. Did he need to be so unlucky? Sword chi flew over one after another, and now even the flames that could burn everything flew over. He always felt that Lynn was deliberate, especially Lynn's dragon's mouth, which was about to face him, and it would be too late to run again. Riley, run now. Roger and Riley ran at once. Whitebeard and Mitsuki Mita looked at each other, did not dare to say too much, immediately turned around, and quickly avoided it. If you don't leave, you will be affected. Thundered. On the island, the explosion is continuing. Lynn's flames were constantly spewing out, and as Lox dodged, most of the Valley of the Gods was enveloped in flames. Those who had previously been stunned by the domineering spirit of the Overlord were naturally burned alive. But this is the world of pirates, only the strong can live, the weak do not know when to die. Because of this, Lynn was particularly desperate to survive. Lox, don't try to escape. Lynn quickly caught up with Lox, 2 stout dragon claws, and grabbed at Lox. Lox immediately jumped into the air, the long knife in his hand blocking the front, just blocking the dragon's claws. But the powerful force still made Lox take a step back and fly backwards, leaving several deep footprints on the ground. The two sides once again clashed fiercely. In the blink of an eye, 7 days and 7 nights passed. Within these 7 days, the battle between Lynn and Rox had completely entered a white-hot phase. It was as if the two sides had a deep hatred, and they had no intention of sparing their subordinates, but were just fighting desperately. In the sky, a black dragon attacked wildly, swallowing flames from time to time, and many more wounds appeared on its body, blood flowed, and black scales were also cut off. Although his physique had strengthened, his demon fruit had not yet been developed to the extreme, so he did not have an immortal body like Kaido. Coupled with the strength of Rox, he was completely a world-ceiling level figure, and even his solid scales could not stop him with that sword chi. So Lynn was badly injured. However, Rox is not very good, and has been shot many times by Lynn, although there are no scars on the surface, but the internal injuries are very serious. It's like an ordinary person being hit by a car, although you can bear it, but the longer it lasts, the more your body will be unable to do it. In particular, Rox was already older, not like Lynn, still a young man, and his body was at its peak. Now that the two sides are deadlocked, it is now up to them to see who has the stronger perseverance and who can hold out until the end, who can win. So even if Lynn has super healing power, it is only to treat some fatal injuries, that is, she is afraid that the physical exertion is too serious. In the distance, Whitebeard and Roger were still watching, not saying a word, silent. The two were really strong and shocking, and all the people watching the game were not sure enough to defeat Lynn or Rox. I wish I could be so good one day. Mitsuki Oda clenched his two swords and swore in his heart that he must become more powerful. Indeed, Lynn is really good, and the next few decades are likely to be his time. Roger had a glint in his eyes. Riley next to him also nodded. Lynn is young, powerful, and can fly, and trying to catch Lynn is not so simple. The next few decades will definitely be Lynn's time. Whitebeard was also sighing inwardly. When I first met Lynn, Lynn was not so perverted, and she did not expect to be so powerful now. Rox, you're doomed. Lynn's angry roar spread throughout the island. Rox's face was particularly ugly. Whether he lost or not is unknown, but one thing is certain, he was seriously injured and his physical exertion was severe. On the other hand, Lynn, although he was also breathing heavily, still seemed to have spirits, and he was still old after all. Rox took a deep breath. After dominating the New World for decades, without encountering an enemy, even the white-bearded and the like could only submit to him. But I didn't expect that today I was actually forced to a dead end by a young man, and he was really unwilling. But he would never run away. As a king, you should die in battle, not live for a long time. Lynn, I'm definitely not going to lose. Rox let out a sudden roar. The sorrow of the king. This is also the last song of Rox, and it also symbolizes the end of the king. Everyone present was attentive. The future overlord of the New World is about to be born. Episode 68. On the surface of the sea, warships are sailing. The warships were littered with scars, apparently after a fierce engagement. At the bow of the warship, a group of admirals were here, and after days and nights of fighting, none of them were caught. But also, after all, sure they are very powerful, there is a star who wants to escape, the Navy wants to catch, it is not so easy. Sengoku, do you want to catch Lynn? Carp asked. Other admirals also looked at the Sengoku. This time, the person in charge was the warring states, and of course they had to listen to the warring states. Sengoku also looked down and thought. It took them several days to chase ship, and the battle between Lynn and Rox should have been over. Rush over now, should not disturb the two battles, by the way you can clean up the battlefield. As for whether Rox will escape, the warring states are not very worried, the Rox Pirates are all divided, and there is no longer any threat. Let's go now and try to catch the remaining members of the Rox Pirates. The Sengoku soon made a decision. Understood. Soon, all the naval warships set off in a mighty wave, and the target was the Valley of the Gods. Thundered. Another earth-shattering roar sounded. Lynn's dragon claws slapped on Rox. Rox also slashed at Lynn's dragon claw, and the sharp sword light left a blood mark on Lynn's dragon claw. But was soon restored by Lynn's super healing powers. After all, he mainly used dragon claws, and if he didn't recover, it would definitely hurt to hit it again. Although Rox slashed Lynn, he was also knocked out, as if he had been hit by a mountain, and his body was rolling. A stream of blood came out of his mouth. I will never lose. Rox suddenly let out a roar and rushed to Lynn again, even if he was about to be defeated by Lynn, he could never admit defeat. After another half an hour, Rox's body became more and more tired, and he didn't even have the strength to swing the sword, and his movements became much slower. Whether it was Roger or Whitebeard, they could see that Lox was getting worse and worse, and it wouldn't be long before he was defeated. The winner in the end was definitely Lynn. Sure enough, after several more confrontations, Lox was slapped to the ground by Lynn, and he didn't even have the strength to get up. Lynn looked at the fallen Lox, did not continue to move, and turned into a human form. Nougat, give me my knife. Next. Whitebeard threw it hard, and the demon knife village flew to Lynn's side and was grabbed by Lynn. Lynn pulled out the demon knife Muramasa. There was only one last minute left, and it was time to end the fight, so I used this knife to give Lox a ride. Lox, you are also a swordsman, and I am also a swordsman, so let's have one last game and use swordplay to decide the victory or defeat. Lox listened to Lynn's words, struggled to get up, and then picked up his weapon, staring at Lynn with fierce eyes. Lynn, I'm the king after all, and I will never lose to you. Let's have a fight. Lynn did not hesitate, rushed to Lox, quickly waving the demon knife in his hand, and a red light flashed by. Lox also exhausted his last strength, pounced on Lynn, and raised the knife in his hand. But he still took a step slower, and Lynn's sword chi passed by Lox's side, and then flew into the sky in the distance. Lynn stopped, turned her back on Lox, and slowly left. In this battle, he won in the end. Only at this moment, his physical exertion was also very serious, and it was estimated that even Kaido could not beat it. On Lox's chest, a huge blood stain suddenly appeared, and a large amount of blood rushed out. Cough, cough, cough. I didn't expect that after such a long time, I was defeated after all, and the king was really lonely. But Lynn, don't be complacent, you're just beating me up young, and in a few decades, when you're old, you'll be replaced by young people. Lynn stopped and sneered. It is true that you have been defeated by the years, but I am sorry, I will never be defeated by the years, I will definitely live longer, never die. Nor did he deny Lox's words. If it weren't for Lox's old age, he wouldn't have really been able to beat Lox. He also admired Lox, who had no system and had stood at the pinnacle of humanity by his own personal strength. In the original book, Lox was defeated by Carp, presumably for other reasons, and as for what reason, he is not very clear. Lox smiled, his body staggering a little, but he still used his sword to stabilize his body. Lox is dead. Roger said suddenly. The others also looked at Lox at this time, although they were still standing, but they had no breath anymore, just propped themselves on top of their weapons. Lynn also turned to look at Lox. Worthy of being a king, even if he dies, he still stands here. Indeed, even if it is an enemy, but I have to admire Lox, I can actually get to this point. Roger also particularly admired Lox. Everyone present, even if Kaido's personality is more arrogant, but also particularly admires Lox. Kaido, put away his body, and then find a place to bury it, how to say that he is also the king of the new world, and he should be buried well. Got it. Kaido didn't refuse Lynn and walked over to Lox and took Lox's body with her. Wait, take his weapon with you, this knife, already printed with Lox's name, and the rest of the miscellaneous pieces, are not entitled to possess it all. Lynn didn't even look at the supreme knife. He already has one, he doesn't need the other half. Kaido turned and took the knife away again. The navy is coming. Roger suddenly looked into the distance, his face changed, and immediately took his men and left together on a pirate ship. Fortunately, Roger was on the shore, otherwise it would not have been too late to escape. Lynn glanced at the navy, no longer hesitating, and immediately changed into the form of a black dragon, grabbing Mitsuki Mita and Whitebeard. As for the ordinary pirates, they were all Lox's former subordinates, not his subordinates, and he didn't care about these people at all. If he is caught, he will be caught, and he will recruit pirates himself. Lynn flicked her wings vigorously, then flew into the air, and soon flew into the blue sky and white clouds. Episode 69. On the Navy warship, Sengoku looked at Lynn, who had flown away, and then at Roger, and quickly made a decision. One is the undercover of the world government, the other is the enemy, and of course the enemy should be captured. Everybody obeys the order and immediately arrests Roger. Understood. The others didn't want to catch Lynn either. After all, Lynn had already flown into the blue sky, above the white clouds, and none of them could fly, let alone catch Lynn. So I had to go and catch Roger. Roger looked at Lynn flying in the sky, and then at the navy behind him, his face instantly green. Well, I knew Lynn could fly, so I went first, and now I'm unlucky, and I'm actually going to be chased by the navy. Riley's face also darkened, and he didn't behave very well, eager to slash Roger to death with a knife. What a stupid fork, and now it's going to be chased again. Don't care so much, run fast, it's too late to run again. The entire Roger Pirate regiment began to retreat rapidly. In midair, Lynn looked at the two people below, the corners of his mouth slightly raised, and his smile was quite bright. But Whitebeard's face wasn't so good. "Lynn, can you please stop grabbing me in your paws? Better to put me on your back." Lynn's face was green, and he still wanted to be a dragon knight on his back? It was absolutely impossible, and he would not agree. "If you don't want to stay in the palm of my hand, I can throw you down, but if you don't have an accident, it doesn't matter to me." Lynn laughed playfully. The white-bearded man had a black face, falling from such a high sky, plus he was a demon fruit ability, and he would absolutely be doomed. "No, you can't just fall down. Kula la la. I think that's pretty good too, fly fast and get out of here early," Whitebeard confessed. Lynn smiled even brighter. A few days later, the news of Lox's defeat by Lynn spread throughout the world. Almost everyone knows that Lynn and Lox fought fiercely for 7 days and 7 nights in the Valley of the Gods, and finally defeated Lox. Lynn also managed to ascend to the new throne. At first, the vast majority of people didn't believe it, but when they saw the pictures of Lox's death in the newspaper, everyone believed that Lox was really defeated. The reason for taking a picture was not only to promote Lynn's prestige, but also to let the world government know that Lynn had defeated Lox. New world, on an island. Shurji looked at the newspaper in his hand and was still quite surprised. Lox was actually defeated. Can't it be that Newgate also took the shot? He didn't particularly believe Lynn, but rather that Lynn and Whitebeard had done it together. Otherwise, how could it be possible to defeat Lox? He was not at all sure of defeating Lox. Big Mama and the others didn't believe Lynn very much. After all, Lox was so powerful, had dominated the world for so long, how could he be defeated so easily? On a desert island, Lynn slept all day, and finally eased up. After 7 nights of fighting with Lox, he had not eaten anything or slept, and he was already particularly tired. So when she got to the island, Lynn took a picture and then lay down on the ground to rest. When he got up, Lynn smelled a smell and turned his head to see that Whitebeard was drinking wine and eating meat, looking so unhappy. "Give me a little." Lynn suddenly appeared next to the two of them, picked up a piece of roast meat, and took a big gulp. He was so hungry that he hadn't eaten in 7 days, and he wished he had eaten all his food now. "Lynn, congratulations, now the newspapers are all about you, and you've managed to become famous." Whitebeard threw a large pile of newspapers next to Lynn. Lynn didn't even want to read the newspapers, and her attention was focused on the roast, gobbling up and assuring her stamina. By the time her strength had almost recovered, the wounds on Lynn's body had begun to scar, and then there were no scars. Whitebeard saw it the whole time and was shocked inside. "Lynn, you are really powerful, you have been so badly injured, you don't have a single scar. Is this the ability of your demon fruit?" "Indeed, this is my fruiting ability." Lynn didn't hide it. Whitebeard was surprised, more and more envious. He also wanted to have such resilience. Mitsuki Oda next to him was also envious. Only Kaido, who didn't care very much, was also an animal esper species demon fruit ability, and he could also reach Lynn's step. After trying for a while, Lynn finally recovered completely, and then picked up the newspaper on the side and took a closer look. All of them are praises about him, but there are also many doubts, for which Lynn subconsciously ignores. Of course, it depends on the language that praises themselves. Sure enough, beating Lox would definitely make a name for myself, and now I've successfully spread the fame throughout the new world. Lynn was very happy. More is the expectation of the system. Defeat Lox and become the new king. Will there be a great gift package? Unfortunately, the system didn't have any sound at all, and no matter how much Lynn looked forward to it, there was nothing she could do. "By the way, Lynn, where should I go next?" Whitebeard suddenly asked. Lynn paused and thought with her head down. After defeating Lox, he didn't know what to do. "We'll talk about it later." "Well, you can take a break." Whitebeard didn't ask much. For some time to come, the storm of the new world did not stop. It's all about things between Lynn and Lox, and a lot of people don't believe Lynn very much. But it wasn't until one day that Roger openly admitted that Lynn had defeated Lox on his own. As one of the top sea thieves in the new world, Roger's name is still quite loud. With Roger's approval, everyone knew that Lynn had really defeated Lox, and still on his own. Just when everyone was agreeing with Lynn, the voice of the system suddenly sounded. "Congratulations to the host, successfully defeated Lox, became one of the kings of the new world, and received a copy of the king's package." Lynn's eyes revealed a glow. "King's package. As soon as you hear it, you know there's something good." Imperial tools, choppers, or other good things, there are really some expectations. Episode 70. Please ask the host if he or she opens the king's package. Open it for me. Lynn said impatiently. This is a king's gift bag, there are definitely good things in it, I just don't know what the specific good things are. Ding dong, congratulations to the host, get the horse charm of the 12 spells. Horse spell. A spell suddenly appeared in Lynn's palm, one of the 12 spells in Qianlong's adventures, possessing a variety of special powers. As for the horse charm, which heals all injuries and can also restore anything damaged, is definitely a good reward. Although he has super healing power, he is very serious about physical exertion, and he usually does not dare to recover from injuries casually. But if he had a horse charm, he could recover from his injuries without consuming any physical strength. When the time comes to fight with others, you can completely fight hard, exchange injuries for injuries, do not need to worry about injuries, absolutely no one can fight him. Lynn, what is this? Looks pretty good. Mitsuki Oda suddenly leaned over and looked at the spell in Lynn's hand, still very curious. Oh, nothing, just a toy. Lynn held it in the palm of his hand, and the spell slowly entered Lynn's body. From now on, as long as Lynn is injured, the horse charm will automatically take effect, and a steady stream of injuries will be healed for Lynn. When Lynn retires, he can also use the horse charm to help others see a doctor, and he can definitely make a lot of money. Although this is not possible. I think that must be a good thing. Mitsuki's eyes flickered, but unfortunately the things had been put away by Lynn, and he couldn't get them. Whitebeard didn't care so much, just sat next to Lynn, drinking a little wine, and the little life was quite good. Lynn, what are you going to do next? I'm going to form a pirate group, or you join my pirate group. Lynn was also ready to invite Whitebeard, but he didn't expect Whitebeard to be so active and actually invited him first. Whitebeard, are you kidding? Now that I am louder than you and stronger than you, I should have joined my pirate group. Lynn, it looks like you want to fight with me. Well, I can play with you, just to see if you have the strength. Whitebeard raised the large knife and placed it in front of Lynn, gently tapping the ground, and smashing a large pit in the ground. Mitsuki Oda immediately flashed to the side, widening the distance between him and Lynn and Whitebeard, and his eyes were quite excited. I've wanted to see you two fight, and finally have a chance. Kaido's eyes also flickered, and he was also quite curious about who was more powerful between the two of them. After all, Whitebeard was stronger than Lynn. But now, Lynn has defeated Rox, and it is uncertain who will win or lose. Lynn and Whitebeard turned black at the same time. Both of them were about to fight, and Mitsuki Mida and Kaido were so excited. Newgate, don't you teach these two men a lesson first? I think I can teach Oda a lesson. A cold light appeared in Whitebeard's eyes. Lynn slowly pulled out the demon sword. Mitsuki's face froze, and his body trembled. If you offend Lynn and Whitebeard, you will definitely be taught a lesson by these two people, and maybe you will be beaten up. Just as Mitsuki Mikuta was about to say something, Lynn had already appeared next to Mitsuki Mida and slashed it down. Although it was only the back of the sword, Mitsuki Mida was unable to resist it all, and directly flew out backwards, and fell heavily to the ground. The Whitebeard also rushed to the side of Mitsuki Mida, raised the large knife in his hand, and slashed at Mitsuki Mida. And it's a knife edge. Mitsuki Oda looked at the cold flickering blade in front of him, his face was green, and if he cut it down, he would definitely be hacked to death. Either the body is cut in half or the head is cut off. Wait, Mr. Newgate, don't mess around, I surrender, hurry up and release me. Mitsuki Mida still said that he was one step slower, the large knife had already been cut down, he didn't have time to resist, and he could only close his eyes. Bang! Whitebeard slashed at Mitsuki's head with a knife, cutting off some of his hair, but he did not cut Mitsuki Mida. Mitsuki Oda looked at the blade next to him and couldn't help but take a deep breath, and a cold sweat appeared on his forehead. Scared me to death. Kulala, that is, to scare you, if you are really arrogant, just a knife will hack you to death. Lynn also leaned to the side, not saying a word, just a smile on his face, looking at Mitsuki Oda's heart with some nervousness. Well, don't bully him, Newgate, I'm also going to form my own pirate group, and it looks like we can part ways. Are you also going to form your own pirate group? That's a shame, I originally wanted you to be my son, Whitebeard sighed regretfully. Lynn's face was green, and he didn't expect that Whitebeard really wanted to take his son. And looking at Whitebeard's regretful expression, it doesn't look like he's joking. Huh? You think too much, I can never be your son, but my grandson can be your son. Mida, Kaido, do you two want to be my crew or do you want to be his son? Lynn turned to look at Kaido and Mitsuki Mita. These two men had been carefully cultivated by him, ready to be his own crew. The future is definitely a cadre-level figure. Lynn had all thought about it, Kaido, codenamed 100 Beasts, and Mitsuki Mita, codenamed Old Sex Ghost. Can I form my own pirate group? Kaido looked at Lynn. Lynn silently raised the demon knife and gently stroked the blade. What did you just say? I didn't hear me clearly. I said, I want to join your pirate group. In the face of Lynn's threat, Kaido can only admit it. What about you? I also joined your pirates, and I followed you out of the Kingdom of Peace. Mitsuki didn't even think much of it before he decided to join Lynn's team. After all, he had always followed Lynn, and Lynn was very powerful, beating Locks and making a name louder than Whitebeard. He should of course join Lynn's pirates. The white-bearded man turned black, and there were two people, and none of them had joined his pirate group. Fortunately, he still had some loyal crew of his own at the base camp of the Rox Pirates. Because this battle was too dangerous, he didn't bring it with him. Lynn also smiled particularly brightly. Newgate, everyone is mine, we can fly away, how are you going to get out of here?